morning. I got pretty good at saying that after 35 years of being on the radio every morning. In fact, sometimes I'm asked to speak in the afternoons or evenings, and I still say, good morning. Habit is hard to break. Well, you asked me to come here and do a sermon, and I will. That's what I'm going to do. But before that, I would like to have Bonnie to come up here with me for a minute. Is she still around? There she is. It won't be tough. This is a reunion of sort. If there's anybody in here that didn't know, Bonnie and I did years and years together on the radio every morning, and she got up from here and went to Des Moines, and I got up from Adel and went to Des Moines. And in the snowy days, people used to call us and say, well, Bonnie made it, Van made it, I guess I got to go to work. And she had a couple of predecessors. That was Van and Patty at first, and then Van and Connie. And then Connie left, and we held auditions. And Bonnie heard some of these people, and she called me and said, do you think I should try out for that? I said, sure, I think that'd be great. So she did, and it worked out for how many years? 20 years for you?
25 and a half years.
25 and a half, yeah.
And my big campaign was like a little Dutch girl. If you hire me, we don't have to do jingles. You just cut the k off of Connie and put a b on it. So that's what we did.
Well, I've heard Dutch people were cheap, but I didn't know they were that cheap. So we did this radio program, and we were blessed with very good ratings, and I noticed that the highest ratings we had were around here, Pella and Otley. So I asked Bonnie, I said, why do we have such huge audience down there? And she said, because they think you're Dutch. So I never told anybody any different, but...
I first met him at KRNT radio, and he came walking by, and I said to somebody, I was brand new, and I said, who's that? They said, Van Harden. I go, what's his first name? They said, Van. I said, Van Harden?
We had a very good run. It was fun. It was a job. It took care of us well. They gave us awards. We got Marconi Awards, which is a big thing in broadcasting. They put us in the Iowa Broadcasting Hall of Fame. I still can't believe that one. But and we loved it. But I can tell you this, that as much as we loved radio, and there was a lot to love, and a lot of the fun awards and things, that I had a bigger love than that, and that was my love for God. And I really feel like Bonnie was the same way. I don't ever remember on that radio program us evoking the name of Jesus on the air. It was a secular radio program, but yet I would get people, and you probably did too, that would come up to me and say, you're a Christian, aren't you? I said, yeah, thanks for noticing. So we were able to have a good witness beyond, I suppose we could have worked at a Christian radio station, but would have been preaching to the choir, and so this was a little different, and I know Bonnie felt the same way about it. I think that's what, I think Christ led us to have that forum to speak to the people of Iowa, and we spoke to a lot of them. So I just want to say thank you to Bonnie for...
Thank you.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. You're saying, all right, so you were a radio announcer. What's in it for me here? I noticed that I like to emulate things that are successful. And that's a state fair, they got all those foods on a stick. So today I have a sermon on a stick for you. In fact, this was the first year in 50 years I didn't go. I didn't really miss it that much, but okay, so have you ever tried to get your kids' attention and it was hard to do? Have you ever tried to get anybody's attention? Have you ever tried to get somebody's attention who's watching their favorite pro football team on Sunday? And this is where the term "hey" came from for our kids and for getting people's attention. And it came to mind that there were famous people who built buildings just to try to get your attention. And I brought some pictures of some of these buildings, and I want to see if some of you have been to some of them and if they got your attention. That one probably didn't. I did a sermon up in Jefferson a few weeks ago, and that is the Mahaney Tower in Jefferson. This guy, Floyd Mahaney, was rich, and he didn't tell anybody, but when he died, they uncovered these letters. He wanted him to build this huge tower in Jefferson to get people's attention. So they did, and that's what you get. People go there to this day to see it. And when I talked to people after that sermon I gave, I said, "Did you know him?" He said, "Yeah, he was kind of a nut." But he did that and got people's attention. Let's try another one. What is it? Leaning Tower of Pisa. They got your attention, didn't they? Even though I don't think it was leaning when they first put it up. It wasn't meant to be, anyway. How about the next one? The clock is called Big Ben, but it's in the Tower of London. Any of you ever been there? Yeah? Bonnie. And the next one? Seattle Space Needle. Very good. Probably some of you have been there. Does that get your attention when you look at that city horizon? Absolutely. Let's try another one. I don't know anybody that's built one quite like that, the St. Louis Arch. Anybody ever been inside and gone up that thing? Oh, man. It's like getting into an industrial dryer. And then it goes up. Obviously, it doesn't go straight up because it can't. But it goes up and then it clicks and up and clicks. And when they built that, they wanted to get your attention. And I'd say they did a pretty good job. I think that's all of those pictures that I have. Nope, what's that one? The Great Wall of China. That got a lot of people's attention for a lot of miles. So a lot of times people do things to get your attention. Bonnie and I did things to get your attention because I noticed when I was on KRNT before WHO, they used to do TV ads for the guy that was on in the morning and the guy that was on in the afternoon, and I was on in the midday, and I got no advertising whatsoever. And I thought, well, I'll be darned if this show isn't going to get advertised one way or the other. I got to get people's attention. So I started doing some novel things, and it carried over to WHO, and Becky and I did things like the Leisure Suit Convention. Bonnie? Becky is over here. I have a legitimate reason for getting it wrong. This is my wife, Becky, by the way. Yeah. And we did a 3D radio program. We did a journey to the center of the earth where we took our listeners down in limestone mines. We did pumpkin cannons where they brought a cannon in and we put pumpkins in it and shot them a mile. We did a hands-on contest where people put their hand on a car and the last one to let go won the car. We did chocolate breakfast. That was Bonnie's idea. She said, let's do a chocolate breakfast. I said, well, how'd that work? Well, we just have all sorts of chocolate companies there and people would come in the morning and eat chocolate. I said, that's never going to work. And we had thousands and thousands. The last one, we had a shuttle bus to get them to where we were going. And then probably the biggest one, we had the corn dog chomp. The Iowa State Fair came to us and they said, you know, we always have a hard time getting people to come to the first day of the Iowa State Fair. What can we do that would be novel? So we talked it over and we thought, well, Why don't we set a world's record for the most people eating a corn dog at the same time? And we thought, okay, that'd be good. And we thought, how many people would we have to do to break the record? One. There was no record. So we did that, and everybody would get a free corn dog. You had to get there before 8:30. Everybody would get a free corn dog, and you could stay in the fairgrounds the rest of the day. At 8:30, 44,000 people had come to get a corn dog, and what? Yeah, they stay the whole day at the fair, right? So, did we get people's attention? You bet. We also got the Des Moines Police Department's attention that day. They didn't like that because people were jumping out of their cars and running across medians, and so anyway, we got their attention, and we didn't spend a lot of money doing it, and just like those people that build those buildings. So my question to you is, what is getting your attention these days? What gets your attention? I did the math. There are 8,760 hours in a year. 6,205 of those are waking hours for you. And I'm asking you, and I ask myself, what has your attention? Is it politics? Is it your health? Is it love? Is it TV? Is it your apps on your phone? Is it Facebook? Is it worry? Is it depression? What has your attention? I looked up to see how much of the Americans spend on screen time per day. For Americans, it averages 7 hours, 30 minutes per day. And it keeps going up. It has been. Plus 3.1 hours to that watching TV. That's a lot of time. Those things have people's attention. So my question is, where does that leave you with God having your attention? Is it fair to say that this world's throwing a few distractions at you? Obviously, it is. Does God have your attention? Be honest. How often? Anyone feeling guilty here? Because I am. He has my attention occasionally. Sunday mornings is pretty good. He must have yours. You're here. So you are ahead of the game, you people here in this building, because you're in a church. If you did that every day, every Sunday, then you would have 1 hour times 52 weeks where God has your attention. If you went to Sunday school, you could add another hour to that. If you were in a Bible group or something, you could add another hour. But still, that's really not very many hours that God has your attention. So two hours a week times 52 weeks a year is 104 hours a year with God getting your attention. Maybe you could throw in some prayer time or Christian broadcasts or something, and that would increase it. So let's say that perhaps 110 hours as opposed to 6,000 that the rest of the world is throwing at you. Look at the disparity there. No wonder this world is so goofed up. We're spending our time paying attention to things other than God. God said in the Bible, to this world, my wisdom is foolishness. I don't have to describe to you what this world is. You're in it. His world is God's kingdom. And someday, if you're a Christian, you will spend 110% of your time in God's kingdom. I wrote a book about this, Life in the Purple Wedge, where the world is the red world and God's kingdom is the blue world. And when you become a Christian, all of a sudden you're in two worlds at the same time. You're in the purple where they meet. You're in the purple wedge. But, you know, you only get, I don't know, 70, 80, 90 years in this red world. But this God's kingdom, this is going to be eternity. But yet, what do we think about all the time? We think about this world. So habits and learning and what you do comes by repetition over and over and over all those hours. The world bangs into our head things that are not godly and not godly truth. And it started in the Garden of Eden. God, according to the serpent, God was wrong. Did he really say that if you eat of this fruit that you shall surely die? Well, that's not right. But that was the red world, worldly stuff, and that was not the blue world, godly stuff for his kingdom. So you probably saying, well, why did we invite this guy here? He's just giving us bad news. I didn't come here to depress you. I didn't come here to let you know you're getting slammed and to be demoralized, but stick with me on this. Wouldn't it be wonderful if the whole world would turn its attention to God? Well, someday it will, according to the Bible. You see it in Philippians 2, 9 through 11. It says, God exalted him to the highest, talking about Jesus, God exalted him to the highest place and gave him the name that is above every name. At the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow in heaven, on earth, and under earth, and every tongue shall acknowledge that Jesus Christ is Lord. And you're probably saying, that's never going to happen. I know this world too well, and that's never going to happen. Well, he says it is going to happen, and wouldn't it be wonderful if the whole world turned their attention to him? That is in the future, what I just read, and it's after the judgments. So some people going through this will be on earth. Some people will have passed away and are under the earth. Some people, but for everybody it will happen. So whenever I teach, I always tell everybody after I read this, I say, beat the rush. Do it now. Someday you will do it, whether you think you will or not. Do it now. It will happen. So meanwhile, back here on earth in 2025, through all the distractions, God is very pleased when he does have your attention. An example, you remember when you were a kid in Sunday school, the story about Zacchaeus? Zacchaeus was a wee little man was he, and Jesus was coming to town, and he wanted to see him, so what did he do? He was so small, he climbed up in a tree. He wanted Jesus' attention, and Jesus was going through there. Zacchaeus was a Jewish tax collector in Jericho, and there was quite a crowd as Jesus went through Jericho. Zacchaeus had heard about him and had wanted to see him, so he climbed up into that tree, and Jesus noticed him as he was walking by, and he called him. Not only did he call him, he called him by name. Remember the song? Zacchaeus, you come down, for I'm going to your house today. And the crowd was appalled because Zacchaeus was a tax collector, and they hated tax collectors back then. They couldn't believe it. So then there was a woman watching to get Jesus' attention in the crowd. So she touched the hem of his garment. He felt it, and he healed her. And he said, such faith as this is rarely seen. That woman got God's attention, and God got her attention. But God also got people's attention through some scary things. Remember the Tower of Babel? They were going to build this tower so they could get up to God, and God didn't like that. He mixed up their languages, and the tower came tumbling down? How about Moses confronting God, talking out of a burning bush? Would that get your attention? I think so. But I think the most amazing way that in the Bible that God got somebody's attention is what happened to Paul earlier. Paul's name was Saul. He was a higher up with either the Sadducees or the Pharisees that hated Jesus, and how Jesus was shaking things up for them. And the people were becoming Christians, and they called themselves the Way. And these guys, and especially Saul, didn't like that. So Saul persecuted and even killed Christians. But God got his attention, and Paul himself explained exactly what happened in Acts 22. Here's Paul's story. He says, "And I persecuted this group called the Way to death, binding and putting both men and women into prisons. And also the high priest and all the council of the elders can testify. From them I also received letters to the brethren and started off for Damascus in order to bring those who were there in Jerusalem as promised to be punished. And it came about that I was on my way approaching Damascus about noontime. A very bright light suddenly flashed from heaven all around me. I fell to the ground. I heard a voice saying to me, 'Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?' And I answered, 'Who art thou, Lord?' And he said to me, 'I am Jesus, the Nazarene, who you are persecuting.' And those who are with me beheld the light, but to be sure did not understand the voice of the one who was speaking to me. And I said, 'Well, what should I do, Lord?' And the Lord said to me, 'Arise and go into Damascus, and there you will be told of the things that you are appointed to do at this time.' But since I could not see, because of the brightness of that light, I was led by the hand by those who were with me, and came into Damascus. And a certain man named Ananias, a man who was devoted by the standard of the law, and well spoken of by all the Jews who were there, came to me, and standing near me, he said, 'Brother Saul, receive your sight.' And at that very time I looked up at him, and he said, 'The God of our fathers has appointed you to know his will, and to see the righteous one, and to hear an utterance from his mouth. For you will be a witness for him to all men of what you have heard and seen.'" Would you say that got Saul's attention? Absolutely. Moses confronting a burning bush, that would get your attention. What does all that have to do with you and me here? I mean, it makes a nice story, but what does that have to do with us? Well, have you ever had a friend or a loved one who was either not a Christian, never found God's way, or had it and lost it? Maybe you are praying for somebody right now that's in that condition. Good for you. You know, you may be the only person that's a connection between God and them that they will ever have. I know I prayed for someone for 36 years. And you know how many times in 36 years you feel like quitting? Just about every time you pray. But I held on, and that person gave their life to Jesus Christ. And when I got a message about it, it melted my heart. I thought, wow. I have prayed, "Dear God, can you please get so-and-so's attention?" And after a while, when it doesn't happen, even after you prayed, could you do to them what you did to Paul? That seemed to work out. How about a bolt of lightning? Would that work? Yet sometimes I find stretches where I myself am not paying attention to God. So we could say, "Please, please, God, Get the world's attention, because the world's in a mess. Get the world's attention. Do something, God. And God has an answer for that. God's answer is, I already have. I sacrificed my son for every single one of you. Now go to him, give your life to me through him, and start paying more attention to me. So I guess I presented with you with a problem. I'll give you a few suggestions. What do you do? Number one, you got to give your life to his son. I mean, if you don't do that, none of the rest of these are going to matter. Pray without ceasing. Read the Bible and study it. Keep coming to church and invite others the way you are now. Think on these things. In Philippians 8, it gives a whole list of things you're supposed to think about. Spend time with committed Christian friends. Love others and serve others. And if you're brave enough, ask God to get your attention and keep it. So I'm going to end here today with a multiple choice question. How is God going to get your attention? Are you going to be walking down a road and all of a sudden you will be blinded by a light? Or is he going to speak to you through a burning bush? Or is he going to bring a former radio announcer in front of you to speak to you right out of the Bible and remind you of what you already know? And that is, it's time for each and every one of us to be more serious about giving God our full attention, because he certainly will give you his. Will the world try to distract you from that this week? Absolutely. That's not something the enemy likes. So just remember that as a Christian, you have the Holy Spirit living in you, and greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. So thank you for having me here today. Thanks to Bonnie. I want to say congratulations to Bonnie and Jean on their 50th wedding anniversary. The hors d'oeuvres were great. And if you don't believe that, she brought some extra back in the kitchen, right? Yeah. I've written a bunch of books, and I did not come here to sell books, but whenever I come, people want them, so I did bring them along with me if you're interested. And I understand your church here is kind of in between pastors. And I've spoken to a lot of churches, and you are not alone. A lot of funky things have been going on in churches. So I would just say, when you interview candidates, make sure you find out if they believe the Bible is the inerrant Word of God and that they will teach from it. Will you pray with me? Dear Father, thank you for this reunion day. May it help to unite us with you through your Son. I ask your covering over this church and these precious people as they move forward.